Have you ever wished you could enjoy a glass of wine without opening a whole bottle? James Martin did, and that wish led him to create Coppa di Vino, a single-serve wine offering convenience, without waste or the hassle of dealing with a stubborn corkscrew. The idea struck him while riding a bullet train in France in 2007. He noticed passengers sipping wine from single-serve containers, a concept unheard of in the United States. Martin saw potential in bringing this idea home. Inspired, he developed Coppa di Vino, which means wine by the glass in Italian.
It's not a glass, it's a Coppa.
Despite the innovative concept, Martin faced challenges. Producing and packaging single-serve wine was costly and complex. He needed funding to scale his business. That's when he decided to appear on Shark Tank. As a seventh-generation cherry farmer from Oregon, Martin brought a unique blend of agriculture expertise and entrepreneurial spirit to the table. Martin hoped the sharks would see the potential in his product and help take Coppa di Vino to the next level. Despite being 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside that day, James strode into the Shark Tank wearing a thick black turtleneck, reminiscent of Steve Jobs. He sought $600,000 for a 20% equity stake, valuing his company at $3 million. While the sharks found the product concept easy to understand, they were unclear on the company's business model. The three potential revenue streams were licensing the use of the patent for the packaging technology to collect royalties, packing other companies' wines into single-serve containers, and through sales of their own Coppa di Vino house brand of wine. When Robert asked James which of those three business models is currently making him money, James says at that point only the last option, from sales of their own Coppa di Vino brand. James impresses the sharks when he says they've achieved $500,000 in sales so far, with over $800,000 in total orders in just 6 months. But Kevin O'Leary is skeptical about Martin's focus on his own house wine brand.
Don't come and tell me this is premium wine. It's not. It's just industrial wine. You're going after mass market. I think the packaging is the play.
Right.
A somewhat annoyed-looking James looks to move past Mr. Wonderful's quip about his creation by focusing on the technology behind the packaging. Martin is not the first to have had dreams of bringing a single-serve wine to the market. Many of the more established companies have tried before and failed. The problem is that when dealing with a small amount of wine, preserving it for more than 30 days is challenging. What sets James's product apart is the innovative seal and packaging method. A patent covers how to package and seal the liquid under pressure, ensuring each serving has a 1-year shelf life. Kevin is impressed with the technology, but questions why Martin wants to be in the wine packaging business when he could license it to more prominent manufacturers and earn a royalty for each use. James says the wine industry needs companies like his to service them, because they don't want to invest in the equipment and the time to learn the process to do it themselves. Kevin decides to take a more direct approach, asking Martin if he'd be willing to split the company's intellectual property from Martin's wine brand as a separate entity. Both Robert Herjavec and Mark Cuban expressed their interest in such a deal. Martin says he'd be open to a deal like that, but it would be for the same valuation, 20% for $600,000. He seems somewhat upset that the sharks don't see value in the consumer brand he has built.
You've already devalued the brand to worth this much.
No, we didn't devalue it to zero, not at all.
Or a negative.
No, not at all.
They just said they're not interested.
No, it's just that we don't want to be in that business.
The sharks assure him there's nothing wrong with having your own brand of wine. They just don't want to be in the bottling or commission sales business themselves, though. Martin begins to sweat profusely, perhaps regretting his turtleneck choice. The sharks say they are out one by one, leaving only Mr. Wonderful and Mark Cuban remaining. Martin wipes the sweat from his face. Kevin O'Leary once again tries to convince James that if they license the patent, he will make money every time someone pops the top. Considering the size of the wine market, Mr. Wonderful believes it would be a straightforward way for anyone to become wealthy. Martin disagrees, saying he would earn more money by bottling for other companies than he would from licensing the IP. Kevin, realizing he is not getting through to Martin, tries another strategy. He suggests buying 51% of the business's intellectual property for $600,000, and in return will do all the legwork to reach out to companies for IP licensing. James wouldn't have to lift a finger, but would still own 49% of the IP and 100% of his wine business. Cuban states that he would never do a deal like that, and, since he can't compete with that offer, bids himself out. That leaves just Mr. Wonderful. He tries a final time to get a price out of James for 51% of the IP. $3 million is the lowest James will go, which is too much. That said, it looks like no deal will be made, much to Kevin's disappointment.
I am going to go buy a $1,000 bottle of wine tonight, and I'm going to drink it because I'm weeping for the opportunity lost.
James gives the Sharks one final cheers and leaves. Kevin says he's a dead man walking. I was so confident in my product that I thought for sure I would get the biggest deal that anyone got on this show, Martin told ABC News. Instead, I got totally demolished. Martin had even expressed his desire to be the first person on the show who would be invited back to be a shark one day. But it was Mr. Wonderful who was the most vocal, weeping for the opportunity lost when Copa di Vino slipped through his fingers. O'Leary's disappointment ran deep, as he saw Copa di Vino as a perfect fit for his existing wine investments. For O'Leary, wine is a serious business, even going so far as to join a secret society for wine snobs, which he frequently mentions on episodes of Shark Tank.
I'm a member of a group called the Chevalier de Testament. It's a secret society of Burgundy drinkers. But you can't do it unless you're wearing your Testament, which is a tasting cup made of pure silver. If I have to polish my Testament before I take it tonight to this quarterly Testament dinner, of course I do this by hand myself. The famous Testament, the secret society of wine drinkers.
Hey, Kevin, what's that fancy word you use from previous?
Chevalier
de Testament.
The Chevalier de Testament.
And remember, I'm a member of the Chevalier de Testament. So today we're going to learn how to open a bottle of champagne with a saber.
O'Leary's $1,000 wine might have eased the sting of a missed opportunity, but James Martin wasn't done yet. In a surprising turn of events, he became the first entrepreneur in Shark Tank history to return for a second pitch.
I don't believe it.
I'm back.
Are you kidding me?
Thought we kicked you to the curb.
James, you're still dead to me.
Sporting a far more comfortable-looking golf shirt in place of that stuffy turtleneck, he's now seeking $300,000 for a 5% equity stake, which values his company at $6 million, twice the valuation worth of his initial pitch. The company has grown considerably since Martin's first appearance in the tank. Copa di Vino was now on track to exceed $5 million in sales, an achievement that caught the Sharks' attention. James explains that demand has outpaced production, necessitating a second bottling line. To commemorate the occasion and add a theatrical touch, Martin even packed a $1,000 bottle of wine into 6 Copa di Vino vessels for Kevin and the others, promising they would drink it together after a deal was reached. Despite all this, the Sharks' reactions are mixed. Damon, after requesting a sample to try again, is the first to speak up.
I wasn't interested last time, and I just want to be thoroughly entertained while you go back and forth with these guys, so I'm out. Thanks for the wine.
Kevin leads the charge by reminding James about his previous hesitations. Once again, he proposes licensing the technology to larger wine companies, echoing his interest from the previous encounter. The debate centers on whether Copa di Vino's value lies in the brand or the underlying technology. In a surprising move, James steps out to call Jim Koch, the legendary founder of Samuel Adams, the beer that launched the craft brewing revolution in America. While he's away, the Sharks discuss a potential joint offer. Upon his return, James presents a counteroffer of $300,000 for 8% equity, valuing his business at $3.75 million. The Sharks have countered with their own proposal, $600,000 for 30% equity to be divided amongst Mark, Kevin, and Robert. They argue that this offer would provide James with twice the amount of capital and triple the expertise. James hesitates because he is concerned that Kevin will continue to push to separate the IP from the rest of the company. Robert assures him that they will keep Kevin in line. Martin once again finds himself at a crossroads. Compromise on his vision, or walk away without a deal. He opens one of the Copa di Vinos filled with the $1,000 wine and takes a sip, contemplating his next move. Silent tension fills the room as the 3 remaining Sharks wait to see if James will accept their deal.
I'm out. You know what? I'm out. You screwed around. You're playing games, and there's nothing I hate more than playing games.
Cuban accuses him of creating drama, but Martin denies it and says he wants a fair valuation for his business, which top wine experts have evaluated. With Mark out, there is little chance of a deal happening. Robert is so upset that he storms off the set.
I'm really out. I mean, you just came here to waste our time. So, cheers.
Martin's second exit from the tank without a deal raised questions about the future of Copa di Vino. Thanking their fans for supporting their visionary CEO and founder, James Martin, on his second foray into the Shark Tank, they posted to their social media the day after their second Shark Tank appearance aired, ending the message with, "Cheers to all." Would the exposure from 2 Shark Tank appearances be enough to propel the company forward? Or would the lack of a strategic partnership with the shark hinder their growth? At the time, Martin faced significant financial challenges. He was not only seeking funding for Copa, but he had also taken on a $600,000 loan intended for the renovation of a derelict Nabisco flour mill located on the eastern outskirts of town. The project represented one of the most ambitious attempts to revitalize its dilapidated downtown area. Martin spent the next 2 years converting the mill into a tasting room and production facility for Copa di Vino. As part of the deal, all the milling machinery was left in place, which Martin preserved as part of the renovation. As per Martin's agreement with the city, he needed to repay the loan by 2014 and buy the property outright in 2015. Lacking a deal from Shark Tank, Martin faced a cash crunch, needing funds both to settle the property and to finance Copa di Vino's production. After Martin's first Shark Tank appearance aired in 2011, he said his phone immediately lit up with non-stop investment offers. Amongst the dozens of calls he received, one person stood out for his persistence and ultimately won Martin over. John Babican was a young Canadian millionaire who had amassed his fortune through shrewd business dealings. Or so it seemed. Babican, impressed by Martin's pitch on the show, reached out with a tempting offer. He wooed Martin with lavish meals, trips to Europe, and promises of a shared vision for a world-class vineyard. Martin, still riding the wave of his TV fame, was captivated by Babican's charm and apparent wealth. The two men quickly formed a bond, with Martin later testifying, "He came to be someone I loved." Babican agreed to a multi-million-dollar loan for Copa di Vino, which was later converted to a minority equity stake. This influx of capital from Babican likely helped Martin address the financial demands of both his burgeoning wine business and the flour mill redevelopment project. Babican soon agreed to much larger things. In April 2012, news circulated that a longtime local wheat farmer had 470 acres of land for sale for $2 million. They agreed to a 50-50 partnership to convert the land into one of the largest vineyards in the state, with Babican promising to invest up to $15 million in the project. Martin's contribution would be his expertise in building vineyards and creating a wine company. Babican told James he didn't like lawyers and wanted the vineyard deal done on a handshake, which is not uncommon in agriculture. With the agreement finalized, Babican pledged $5 million to enhance the property, with trellises and fencing. Work began with the first grapevines planted across 110 acres of the land, with the rest soon to follow. With the cash injection from Babican, Copa di Vino was not only able to stabilize, but, according to an interview James gave ABC, would grow to $25 million of revenue by 2014. In an inside Shark Tank clip, James is seen boarding a private jet.
If they had taken the investment on the second show for $300,000, that $300,000 today would be worth almost $3 million.
I hate that guy.
The video doesn't specify James's destination or the owner of the jet. Martin believes the Sharks missed their chance, referring to this as the one that got away. On the Copa di Vino website, a striking black and white image of James stepping off a private jet features this same line.
One of the quote-unquote misses of Shark Tank was Copa di Vino. And
A miss?
Mark Cuban had strong words about James's Shark Tank appearances.
He was the first gold digger that we ever had. A gold digger being someone who comes in just for the PR, not really looking to make a deal.
He was up there thinking he's the man. And he's like, I'm going to take a sip. And what did I do? I'm out.
But with Copa Divino, nobody regrets that you didn't get in on that. No regrets.
Can you imagine dealing with him on an ongoing basis?
He would ruin our lives.
James, however, shows no regrets about rejecting the Sharks twice.
I think we all know the Sharks blew it and missed out on the biggest opportunity they ever had, which was me. I was right. We were building a brand, and my opportunity to come back was also my chance to get the last word in and say, look, you blew it, but I'm also gracious enough to give you a second chance. I didn't need the Sharks. They needed me. The Sharks needed me, and they didn't get it because they got greedy.
Reminding James of an important fact, Robert Herjavec wants the last word on this one, though.
I think in the second one he forgot his place. He is not the Shark. We're the Sharks.
James might have been riding a wave of confidence at that point, but as time passed, cracks began to appear in his seemingly perfect alliance with John Babican. Babican's funding began to dry up, and he became increasingly unresponsive. Martin felt threatened and coerced regarding control of the vineyard. Red flags appeared when Babican requested that Martin transfer the vineyard's title to offshore entities, citing tax purposes. As Martin dug deeper, he uncovered a shocking truth. John Babican, the charming wine enthusiast, was actually a fugitive known as the Wolf of Montreal. Babican was wanted by Canadian authorities for millions in unpaid taxes, and was at the center of an SEC investigation for a massive pump-and-dump stock scheme. The SEC lawsuit revealed Babican's lavish lifestyle, funded by defrauding investors through his website, Awesome Penny Stocks. He had built a network of shell companies to artificially inflate stock prices, then profited by selling shares before they crashed. Babican soon fled the country, but not before transferring his ownership stake in the winery to a Hong Kong-based company. After Babican stopped funding the vineyard project, Martin ended up with a huge $800,000 bill to pay suppliers and had to shell out $20,000 every month just to keep the vineyard running, all for the wine business he and Babican had started together. With cash flow drying up, Martin defiantly vowed to push on with Copa and his vineyard. Whether this was determination or desperation remained to be seen. Copa Divino's rejection might have closed one chapter, but the story of single-serve wine on Shark Tank was far from over. Andrew McMurray stepped into the tank in Season 6 with Zips, single-serving cups of wine in a unique container. His pitch immediately caught the Sharks' attention, especially Kevin O'Leary's. O'Leary, who had been developing his own wine line, saw potential in this new single-serve concept. McMurray highlights that his single-serve wine differentiates itself by actually resembling a wine glass, demonstrating the cup's strength by standing on it, impressing the Sharks. Moreover, the cup is encased in a UV-resistant cling wrap, blocking light from reaching the wine and oxygen from permeating the plastic. The Sharks are impressed, but are quick to draw comparisons between Zips and Copa Divino. Kevin says Copa Divino assured them they had the patent on sealing a glass of wine this way, and is curious how Andrew's product doesn't breach that patent.
And by the way, you're doing better than the other guy because he was sweating like a pig by this point. The point is, you're telling me after having visited the owner of the patent that there is no breach.
Andrew says a French company owns the rights to the technology behind that patent. He contacted the company and was told that Copa Divino was essentially like a franchisee, and he was allowed to use the technology for Copa Divino, whereas Zips has created new patents, with a significant distinction being the shelf life. Zips lasts 18 months, while Copa Divino lasts only 12 months. Moreover, the UV wrap and the combination of plastics used in the making of the glass are also included as features of the patents. The Sharks are relieved to hear this. McMurray's pitch continues to impress them with his focus on licensing the technology to other wineries. In addition, he says Zips has already secured deals with several Major League Baseball stadiums and was in talks with Walmart. However, the Sharks had concerns. Kevin O'Leary pointed out that the retail price of $2.99 per serving was too high for most customers. He argued that people wouldn't pay that much for a single serving when they could buy a whole bottle for around $10.
Everything about selling wine in America is known by their buying team. Which brands, which varietals, what price point, what packaging. Everything. They know everything.
O'Leary's strategy was clear. He believed Costco could sell Zips wine at a lower price point due to its high sales volume. If they could get Zips into Costco, he argued, the company's valuation would skyrocket. Kevin wants to get into Costco because it is the largest wine purchaser on Earth, with $5.2 billion in annual sales. But perhaps more importantly, he says he was previously rejected by Costco, which told him O'Leary Wines weren't a big enough player yet for them. He was told to come back, and so he did 2 years later.
We talked about single serve. We talked about 750 milliliter bottles. We talked about my brand.
Did you get your wine into Costco?
I'm negotiating it right now. It's not in yet.
Good question. That would be a no.
The other sharks drop out, believing the business model was flawed. They advised McMurray to focus on licensing the technology rather than building his own brand. O'Leary, however, saw an opportunity. He offered $2.5 million for 10% equity, with a condition: securing a deal with Costco. Andrew steps into the hall to contact the company's shareholders, comprised of retired Goldman Sachs employees, to finalize the deal.
Do you see this as your way of you getting into Costco?
Yeah, but this is the best offer Kevin's ever made to somebody.
After some suspense, Andrew agrees to the deal, marking a significant moment in Shark Tank history. At $2.5 million, it was the largest deal ever made on the show at that point. The negotiation highlighted the potential that O'Leary saw in the single-serve wine market, despite his previous unsuccessful attempts with Copa di Vino. As the dust settled on the groundbreaking deal, Kevin O'Leary's enthusiasm for Zips reached new heights. "I've never been so excited about a Shark Tank deal," he declared. The $2.5 million investment marked a significant milestone for Zips, propelling it into the spotlight of the single-serve wine market. O'Leary's vision for Zips was ambitious. He saw the potential for the product to revolutionize wine consumption, making it more convenient and accessible to a wider audience.
I'm wearing my traditional Chevalier de Testevin, which is a secret society of Burgundian wine drinkers, of which I'm a member. Think of the Masons, except a lot more fun.
Wow.
You just made the biggest investment in Shark Tank history.
I'm betting that single-serve technology, this technology, is going to revolutionize the wine industry. I'm making the assumption in my financial estimates that 15% of the wine market in 36 months will be in single-serve. That's my big bet. This is a big bet, but I think I'm going to be right.
The plan was to expand Zips' distribution rapidly, targeting major retailers and venues across the country. The company began exploring ideas for product line extensions and innovative marketing strategies to capitalize on their newfound fame, such as hard liquor, or even filling them with Kevin's own wine label, O'Leary Fine Wines. In an interview on CNBC, he was asked what made Zips different and what his plan was.
First of all, it doesn't look like a urine sample. It looks like a wine glass. I'm betting that every brand in America of wine is going to use this packaging technology, including me. My wines are going to be available also in single serve.
Because, or it's the shape? What are we talking about here?
It's the shape. It's the fact that the wine goes into the stem of the glass, which gives it stability. And
this, I think, I'm making a huge bet here. You can see this. It's the largest deal ever done in Shark Tank. But I think when we come back in a year, we'll probably have 20-30% of the market converted. Not just the winemakers, but the retailers, too. Remember, we've got to change the industry with this. This is not easy.
After Zips secured a deal with Kevin, the path seemed clear for success. With the Shark Tank boost, Zips' sales leaped from $650,000 to approximately $1.8 million, as mentioned in a Beyond the Tank follow-up episode filmed at their New York location. This surge in popularity opened doors for new opportunities and partnerships. But what if the very thing that made their product unique became its downfall?
This is going to be my mark in the wine industry.
Now let's go make some money. Cheers.
Cheers.
The story of Zips' post-Shark Tank journey reveals unexpected twists that challenge the notion of guaranteed success after landing a shark. Kevin O'Leary's excitement began to wane as he observed the company's slow growth. During a follow-up appearance on Beyond the Tank, O'Leary expressed his frustration.
Things are happening at a snail's pace at Zips.
This sentiment highlighted the growing tension between the shark's expectations and the company's reality. Andrew says they are doing 100,000 cases a year of the Zips house brand, but are not making any money. Tension in Mr. Wonderful's face can be seen as he doesn't like what he hears from Andrew in the boardroom. Kevin is worried that they can't keep operating without eventually turning a profit. The pivotal moment came when O'Leary arranged a meeting with Costco's wine buyer, the legendary Annette Alvarez Peters. In an interview with the Wine Spectator, O'Leary shared details of this meeting, saying Alvarez Peters was initially skeptical when he reached out, saying, "Look, single-serve wine, I don't think so. But I'll take a meeting at the airport. I'll give you 1 hour of my time." True to her word, the meeting took place at the airport. However, the opportunity quickly turned sour when Alvarez Peters took a sample of the single-serve wine, tipped it over her purse, and it leaked right into it. This incident effectively dashed any possibility of a deal with Costco, as well as an agreement between Kevin and Zips, since entering Costco was a prerequisite for their Shark Tank deal. After the brief Shark Tank boost, Zips struggled. They shifted from selling wine to licensing their packaging technology. By 2016, their social media went quiet and their website disappeared. As of 2019, they were still licensing their packaging, but no longer producing wine. McMurray remains in his longtime role at Zaki's Wine and Liquor, a position he has been in for over 30 years. The dream of revolutionizing the wine industry with single-serve portions began to fade. Things weren't going much better for Copa di Vino. The SEC sued John Babican in U.S. District Court, accusing him of defrauding investors. As a result, they froze his assets, including the vineyard. SEC lawyers argued the asset freeze was crucial to prevent the imminent transfer of ill-gotten gains to a foreign jurisdiction. The SEC's asset freeze further exacerbated Martin's financial difficulties. It prevented him from obtaining business loans to further develop the vineyard, hindering its growth and profitability. At one point, Babican pressured Martin to sell the vineyard, resorting to repeated implied threats against Martin and his family. Strange incidents began to occur, raising suspicions. According to court documents, these included helicopters hovering unusually low over the property, and an SUV driving through the vineyard carrying men in dark suits who gave Martin ominous looks. In 2016, Copa di Vino faced another setback when its distributor, 3G Vino, became embroiled in controversy. The founder of 3G's Vino was convicted of fraud, forcing Copa di Vino to terminate their partnership. The owner of the company specifically capitalized on Copa di Vino's appearances on Shark Tank, using the brand's recognition to falsely assure investors of 3G Vino's success. Furthermore, the SEC asset freeze forced Martin to take legal action against Babican to secure ownership of the vineyard. This lawsuit was a costly and time-consuming process, adding to Martin's stress and financial strain. He had to hire lawyers, gather evidence, and endure a lengthy trial to prove his legitimate ownership and Babican's fraudulent intentions. The legal battle dragged on for years, impacting Martin's personal life and business operations. Despite initial challenges, a silver lining emerged for James Martin. In 2020, Splash Beverage Group acquired Copa di Vino for $5.9 million, as reported by Market Screener. The new ownership rebranded Copa di Vino's logo, opting for a more modern design over the previous classical aesthetic. The agreement stipulated Martin would remain as chief visionary officer, and he would continue operating his tasting room at the mill. Although a potentially more significant decision was looming on the horizon. Due to the verbal nature of their agreement, no written proof existed of James Martin's land ownership. Babican claimed in court that Martin was merely an employee, not a partner. The jury, familiar with the verbal agreements, rejected this argument. The court ruled in James's favor, awarding him $23 million and 50% of the vineyard. Babican offered Martin full vineyard ownership in exchange for dropping the $23 million claim, which James accepted. According to his LinkedIn, James has launched 2 new companies, DrinkX Tech and Eternity, that focus on creating packages for universal refilling. Copa di Vino remains available today, while Zips appears to be less active. Therefore, it looks like James won in the end, proving that sometimes life doesn't follow the expected script.
Sharks, you say it all the time. You blew it, entrepreneur, you blew it. I think this time, you blew it.
Cheers.